Okay, so we are living in the middle of this massive AI revolution, and you have to admit, it's pretty dazzling. But behind that glamorous, high-tech smile, there's a hidden truth, one that actually powers the entire system. Today, we're going to pull back that curtain.
I mean, you see it everywhere, right? AI can write a poem, it can paint a masterpiece, it can even drive a car. It really feels like we've created this true digital brain, a machine that's actually thinking for itself. It's amazing, it's futuristic, but you have to ask, is that really the whole story?
And that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Is it really learning all this stuff by itself? Because behind all that incredible intelligence, there's a secret that the tech industry, well, they don't really like to advertise. So how does an AI actually learn?
To get to the bottom of this, we need to find what you might call the ghost in the machine. And I'm not talking about some clever bit of code. I'm talking about a very real and very, very human process that makes this whole thing work.
See, here's the thing. AI doesn't just magically soak up information from the internet and get smarter. No, it's taught, bit by millions of people all around the world. They're called ghost workers, and they are manually and often painstakingly building the intelligence we talk to every day.
The core process here is something called data labeling, and it's brutally simple, but it is absolutely essential. An AI can look at a million pictures of cats and learn absolutely nothing. It only learns what a cat is after a real person has manually clicked on thousands of ears and tails and whiskers, telling it over and over and over again, hey, this is a cat.
And look, this isn't just about identifying cats. Think about the biggest things AI is doing right now. For a self-driving car to see the road, a person first has to draw little boxes around every single pedestrian and stoplight and street sign in just countless hours of video. And for a language model like ChatGPT to sound helpful and not, hateful, a person has to read and score thousands of toxic sentences. Without all this tedious human work, these billion-dollar AI models are basically blind and useless.
But this ghost work is now going way beyond just clicking on pictures on a screen. It's actually moving into the physical world, teaching robots how to handle, well, our reality.
You know that dream of having a robot helper in your house? For that to ever work, that robot needs to do a lot more than just see things. It has to learn how to touch, how to handle an egg without crushing it. And to do that, it has to learn from us by essentially digitizing our own physical proficiency.
Just try to picture this for a second. To teach a robot how to wash dishes, a person puts on these sensor-filled gloves and just washes dishes thousands of times to generate data on grip strength and water pressure. To teach a robot how to iron, workers have to show it the subtle feel of ironing silk versus, say, cotton. This is literally about translating human intuition into ones and zeros.
So what's the business model for all this? Well, it's essentially a copy and paste of human skill. A company can record an expert's movements, maybe a lifetime of expertise, and just pay them a single one-time wage. Then the company owns that skill forever. The worker just gets paid for that one performance.
This whole situation leads to a really critical question. Where is all this work even happening? Well, it's happening in what you could call a global digital factory, and it's a system that, sadly, seems to be built on exploitation.
To keep their costs as low as possible, huge tech companies, we're talking Google, OpenAI, Meta, they outsource this data labeling work. They send it to so-called digital factories that are often located in developing countries, with massive hubs in places like Kenya and the Philippines.
And the pay for this work? For building the very foundation of our multi-trillion-dollar AI future, many of these ghost workers are earning as little as $1.20 an hour. Yeah, just let that sink in for a moment.
This economic gap is so huge, so unbalanced, that some U.S. business publications have given it a name. They call it digital colonialism. It's a system where incredible wealth is being generated in one part of the world by using the cheap, completely hidden labor of another.
And don't think for a second, this is just a story about the global South. Even in a highly developed country like South Korea, this kind of work has earned the nickname digital doll eye attachment, a direct callback to the mind-numbing factory work of the past. It's seen as really unstable work, mostly for people whose careers have been derailed.
But as bad as the low wages are, that isn't even the darkest part of this story. We really need to talk about the immense psychological toll this work takes, especially on the people whose job it is to make our AI safe. It's so important to understand why AI chatbots seem so polite and ethical. It's because human beings are acting as a shield, They are the filter, absorbing all of the toxic, harmful, and deeply disturbing content from the internet so that we never have to lay eyes on it.
And what does that filtering actually involve? It means staring into the absolute abyss of the internet. Day after day, these workers have to review the worst things humanity has to offer. Terror videos, child abuse materials, graphic depictions of torture, descriptions of sex crimes. They're forced to look at all of this, specifically to protect the rest of us from it.
One Kenyan content moderator, who was working for a subcontractor for OpenAI, put it this way: "I started work every morning reading hell. The trauma that this kind of work inflicts is it's impossible to overstate."
So where's the support for these people? Well, a lot of the time, there just isn't any. The big tech companies use layers of subcontractors to create distance between themselves and this dirty work. And that system often means these moderators are left completely on their own, without the psychological counseling they so desperately need.
So, after hearing all of this, where do we possibly go from here? How can we even begin to build a more ethical future for artificial intelligence?
And here's the great crushing irony of it all. This technology promised to free us from grueling labor, right? But the reality, for so many people, is that it's just creating a new, invisible kind of work, one that's cheaper, more fragmented, and can be profoundly damaging. So what's the solution? Well, the path forward seems to have 3 clear steps. First, we need guaranteed fair wages for all these data workers. Second, we need real labor protection systems, and that includes mandatory psychological care. And third, we need transparent supply chains so we can all actually see the true human cost behind the AI tools we use every single day.
In the end, we have to remember that AI isn't magic. It's a massive tower built on human labor, on human sweat, and sometimes on very real human pain. And that leaves us with one final and I think crucial question to think about. What is the true value of all the labor that's hidden beneath it all?